This is the story of a man who left the Africa to find a better life overseas, but little did he know what awaited him. He embarked on a journey that would etch his name in history, but not for valor or nobility, but for the audacity of his deceit. This is not merely a tale of deception, but a saga of resilience and cunning woven into the fabric of human endeavor. Our protagonist, whose name is now whispered in equal parts awe and disdain, began his saga with humble origins. From the streets of his village, he nursed dreams of opulence that seemed galaxies away from his reality. Yet, fueled by an unyielding ambition, he set forth on a path littered with guile and subterfuge. The pivotal moment arrived when he crossed paths with a general, a chance encounter that would catalyze his ascent to infamy. But long before this fateful rendezvous, he honed his craft in the shadowy realm of petty scams, assuming guises as varied as a banker or diplomat to orchestrate his schemes. However, with each success, he amassed a legion of adversaries thirsting for retribution. Yet, our protagonist proved to be as elusive as he was cunning, evading the clutches of justice with such brilliance that authorities could believe. From faking cardiac arrests to orchestrating daring escapes through sewage conduits, his ingenuity knew no bounds. But behind the veil of his escapades lies a profound narrative of human frailty and aspiration. For in his relentless pursuit of wealth, he embodies the timeless yearning for a better life, albeit tainted by the moral ambiguity of his methods. Through sheer force of will and a silver tongue, he secured an audience with a general, a meeting that would serve as the genesis of his most audacious scheme yet. With the finesse of a master storyteller, he spun a tale of grandeur, positioning himself as the custodian of a mythical trust fund teeming with untold riches. The allure of his promises drew investors from every corner of the globe, their eyes alight with visions of prosperity. From the bustling streets of Ghana to the towering skyscrapers of South Korea, from the bustling metropolises of America to the regal estates of Britain, they'd flock to him, their hopes tethered to his charismatic facade. Unbeknownst to his unwitting patrons, their investments were but drops in an ocean of deceit, siphoned away to fuel the extravagant lifestyle our protagonist had long coveted. With each passing day, his empire of illusion flourished, a testament to the power of deception and the frailty of human ambition. Embracing his newfound wealth and status, he transformed into an international playboy, a magnet for the affections of women from every stratum of society. Behind the tinted windows of his luxury vehicles, he traversed the urban sprawl, flanked by a retinue of hired guardians, a potent symbol of his perceived invincibility. Among these stories lies the saga of John Ackah Blay-Miezah, a man whose name would become synonymous with deception and intrigue. His exploits, though shrouded in myth and legend, offer a window into the darker recesses of human nature, where ambition and greed intertwine with devastating consequences. The stage for Blay-Miezah's grand deception was set against the backdrop of Ghana's tumultuous journey towards independence. In the wake of colonial rule, the newly liberated nation found itself grappling with the legacy of exploitation and corruption. As the reins of power shifted hands, opportunists and schemers emerged from the shadows, eager to exploit the chaos for their own gain. Among these opportunists was John Ackah Blay-Miezah, a man whose origins were as murky as his intentions. Born into obscurity in a small village in Ghana, Blay-Miezah harbored dreams of wealth and prestige that far surpassed the confines of his humble surroundings. From an early age, he exhibited a keen intellect and a gift for manipulation, traits that would serve him well in the years to come. Blay-Miezah's ascent to infamy began with a simple yet audacious proposition. He would present himself as a man of means and influence, weaving a web of lies so intricate that even the most discerning skeptic would be ensnared. Armed with nothing but his wits and a silver tongue, he set out to conquer the world, one unsuspecting victim at a time. His first foray into the world of deception took him from the dusty streets of his village to the bustling metropolis of Accra, where he posed as a wealthy businessman with ties to the political elite. Through a combination of charm and deceit, he managed to ingratiate himself with those in power, gaining access to resources and connections that would prove invaluable in his quest for dominance. But it was not until he set his sights on international waters that Blay-Miezah's true genius revealed itself. Sensing an opportunity amidst the chaos of post-colonial Ghana, he embarked on a daring scheme to defraud unsuspecting investors of their hard-earned wealth. Under the guise of a philanthropic venture, he solicited funds from eager donors, promising substantial returns on their investments. Little did they know that their contributions would serve only to line the pockets of a man whose thirst for wealth knew no bounds. As the years passed and Blay-Miezah's empire grew, so too did the whispers of discontent among those who had been duped by his machinations. Rumors swirled of irregularities and inconsistencies in his business dealings, prompting authorities to launch investigations into his affairs. But Blay-Miezah was not one to be easily deterred. With each new threat to his empire, he employed ever more elaborate schemes to evade capture, resorting to bribery, blackmail, and even violence to protect his interests. Like a master chess player, he anticipated his opponent's every move, staying one step ahead at all times. Yet for all his cunning and guile, Blay-Miezah could not outrun the inexorable march of justice forever. In the end, it was not the weight of his crimes that brought about his downfall, but the hubris that had propelled him to such dizzying heights of power and influence. As the walls closed in around him and his empire crumbled to dust, Blay-Miezah found himself facing the harsh light of reality for the first time in his life. Stripped of his illusions and exposed as nothing more than a common fraudster, he stood alone, a cautionary tale for future generations of the perils of unchecked ambition. His grandiose claims of a secret fund endowed by Ghana's revered leader, Kwame Nkrumah, were nothing more than smoke and mirrors, yet they proved potent enough to lure investors from every corner of the globe. Born into poverty in 1941, Blay's early years were marked by struggle and adversity. From humble beginnings, he harbored dreams of wealth and power, driven by a relentless ambition to transcend the limitations of his upbringing. His moniker, Kerosene Boy, attested to his industrious nature, as he hawked his wares on the streets of Ghana to finance his education. But it was his insatiable thirst for success that propelled him across oceans to the shores of America, where he reinvented himself as John Ackah Blay-Miezah, a man on a mission to emulate the achievements of his country's founding father. Yet, beneath the veneer of sophistication lay the harsh reality of menial labor, as Blay-Miezah toiled away in obscurity, serving tables and washing dishes to make ends meet. Despite his humble beginnings, Blay-Miezah possessed a keen intellect and an uncanny ability to read people, skills honed through years of observation and experience. With each passing day, he grew more adept at the art of deception, spinning tales of wealth and influence to captivate his audience and manipulate their emotions. But for all his cunning, Blay-Miezah was ultimately undone by his own hubris. As the walls closed in around him and the truth came to light, he found himself cast adrift in a sea of betrayal and deceit, his dreams of glory shattered by the harsh realities of his own making. He was subsequently arrested and sent to prison. But later in 1966, after a coup overthrew Nkrumah, Blay-Miezah was released from jail. It may look like this is all it is to this man's story, but this is just a tiny chip off the big chunk. Emerging from the confines of prison, he returned to the world with renewed determination, his sights set on even greater heights of infamy. With each passing year, Blay-Miezah's schemes grew bolder and more elaborate, a testament to his insatiable appetite for deceit. Fueled by an insatiable desire for recognition and power, he assumed a myriad of personas, each more fantastical than the last. From impersonating a functionary of the African Development Bank to masquerading as the son of a renowned jurist, he spared no effort in his quest to outdo himself. But for all his bravado, Blay-Miezah remained haunted by an unrelenting hunger for more. Con artists, by their very nature, are never satisfied with their lot in life. They crave the thrill of the chase, the rush of adrenaline that comes with each successful deception. And so, Blay-Miezah found himself trapped in a cycle of deceit, forever chasing the elusive dream of wealth and power. Yet, even as he reveled in the spoils of his ill-gotten gains, a sense of unease gnawed at the edges of his conscience. The debts he accumulated through his extravagant lifestyle loomed large, threatening to unravel the carefully constructed facade he had worked so hard to maintain. But Blay-Miezah was nothing if not resourceful. Faced with mounting bills and creditors clamoring for payment, he devised a cunning strategy to evade responsibility. Posing as a diplomat on a supposed mission to the United Nations, he took up residence at the prestigious Bellevue Stratford Hotel, all the while accruing debts he had no intention of repaying. Despite desperate attempts to negotiate his way out of the situation, the harsh reality of his predicament soon became apparent. He was once again headed for prison. Thrown back behind bars, Blay remained unrepentant, his spirit unbroken by the weight of his transgressions. If anything, his time in confinement only served to fuel his determination, as he resolved to emerge stronger and more cunning than ever before. Locked away from the outside world, Blay seized upon every opportunity to expand his repertoire of skills, learning from the masters of deception who shared his cell block. Through shrewd networking and careful observation, he laid the groundwork for his future endeavors, plotting his next move with the precision of a seasoned strategist. But perhaps most remarkable of all was Blay's uncanny ability to navigate the treacherous waters of prison life with ease. Despite the confines of his surroundings, he remained a figure of intrigue and fascination, admired by fellow inmates for his resourcefulness and ingenuity. Time and time again, Blay defied the odds, escaping the clutches of justice with a flair that bordered on the miraculous. For him, prison was not a punishment, but a temporary setback, a mere pit stop on the road to greater glory. Regardless of the explanation, Blay-Miezah's uncanny knack for slipping through the cracks left a lasting impression on the annals of scam history, sparking awe and bewilderment whenever his name was mentioned. Even from the confines of prison, Blay-Miezah's audacity knew no bounds. In a stunning display of bravado, he managed to finagle a meeting with General Ashimpong, Ghana's formidable military dictator, while serving time for fraud. Seizing the opportunity with characteristic boldness, Blay-Miezah spun a tale of improbable camaraderie, claiming a lifelong friendship with the late President Nkrumah despite being 2 decades his junior. Such audacity in the face of authority was a hallmark of Blay-Miezah's character, captivating the attention of the general and leaving an indelible mark on their encounter. But the stakes soared to new heights when Nkrumah, on his deathbed, supposedly entrusted Blay-Miezah with a monumental secret. With a gravitas befitting a Shakespearean drama, Nkrumah divulged the existence of a vast fortune hidden away in a Swiss bank, a staggering sum equivalent to billions of dollars in gold bars. This revelation added a surreal layer to Blay-Miezah's already fantastical narrative, elevating him from mere scam artist to a figure of mythic proportions. In the grand tapestry of Blay-Miezah's life, reality and fiction intertwined with mesmerizing complexity, blurring the lines between truth and deception. His exploits continue to captivate imaginations and fuel speculation, leaving a legacy that transcends the confines of mere mortal. Despite lacking any tangible evidence of his supposed closeness to the late president, Blay's charisma and persuasive charm were enough to ensnare the minds of those around him. His assertions seemed to carry an air of undeniable truth, weaving a web of deception so intricate that even the most discerning skeptic found themselves drawn in. The notion of a clandestine trust fund, controlled by Blay alone, captured the collective imagination with its sheer audacity. Such a scheme could not unfold in secrecy. It demanded plans, investments, and ultimately, unwitting participants who would become unwitting victims of Blay's machinations. As Ghana's economy faltered under the weight of its own challenges, General Ashimpong found himself grasping for solutions. Blay's promises of wealth and prosperity, coupled with the allure of his supposed connections to Nkrumah's fortune, presented a tantalizing opportunity to reverse the nation's fortunes. In a move born out of desperation, the general ordered Blay's release from prison and bestowed upon him the privileges of a diplomatic passport, effectively endorsing his grand scheme. With a charismatic pitch and promises of substantial returns, he enticed individuals from diverse corners of the world to join his venture, capitalizing on their trust and eagerness to partake in what seemed like a lucrative opportunity. His modus operandi was simple yet effective. Recruit investors to finance the legal proceedings necessary to access Nkrumah's purported fortune. Armed with a compelling narrative and an aura of legitimacy bestowed by his diplomatic status, Blay-Miezah successfully garnered over $200 million from American investors alone before his deceit was exposed in the early 1990s. Blay-Miezah's reach extended far beyond American shores, as he courted investors from Ghana, South Korea, America, and Britain with equal aplomb. Bolstered by their unwavering trust, he established the Bureau of African Affairs and Industrial Development, an entity masquerading as a legitimate government agency to lend credence to his enterprise. Operating from their headquarters in Bala of Sinwa, Blay-Miezah and his American associate Ellis worked tirelessly to attract new investors to the Oman Ghana Trust Fund. Their targets included lawyers and business owners enticed by the promise of lucrative contracts with the Ghanaian government, further fueling the illusion of legitimacy surrounding their enterprise. But beneath the veneer of prosperity lay a web of deceit and manipulation, as Blay-Miezah and his cohorts exploited the hopes and dreams of their unsuspecting investors for personal gain. Blay-Miezah's scheme evolved into a web of deception that ensnared individuals from all walks of life, from college students to elderly widows, each lured by promises of astronomical returns on their investments. With assurances that their funds would facilitate the retrieval of Nkrumah's hidden fortune, Blay-Miezah painted a picture of untold wealth and prosperity, enticing even the most cautious investors to partake in his venture. As the promised payment dates came and went without fulfillment, Blay-Miezah's excuses grew increasingly elaborate, accompanied by tantalizing promises of even greater returns in the future. Rather than raising suspicions, these delays seemed only to fuel investors' optimism, leading to a surge in new participants eager to capitalize on the perceived opportunity. The expansion of the investment pool transformed the Oman Ghana Trust Fund into a magnet for individuals motivated by a variety of factors. While some may have been initially drawn to the opportunity due to their familiarity with Ghana or West Africa, others were enticed by the allure of quick riches and the promise of significant returns on their investment. For Blay-Miezah, the influx of new investors served only to fuel his extravagant lifestyle, emboldening him to push the boundaries of his deception even further. In a display of hubris, he convened a meeting with his investors in Guernsey, where they gathered with coats, luggage, and unwavering determination, eagerly anticipating the payout that never materialized. As the investors gathered in Guernsey, there was a palpable sense of anticipation tinged with weariness. While they had been promised significant returns on their investments, the repeated delays and broken promises had taken their toll on their spirits. Each failed payout had chipped away at their optimism, leaving behind a sense of resignation and disillusionment. For these individuals, hope had become a scarce commodity, replaced by a lingering sense of doubt and skepticism. Despite their initial faith in Blay-Miezah and his grand promises, they had grown accustomed to disappointment. Their once fervent belief in the trust fund's success slowly eroded by years of unfulfilled expectations. Yet, despite their reservations, they still clung to a glimmer of hope, unable to shake the belief that this time, perhaps things would be different. It was a testament to the power of human resilience, the enduring capacity to believe in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Meanwhile, Blay-Miezah himself had arrived in Guernsey ahead of the investors, ensconced in the opulent surroundings of La Grande Mer. Accompanied by his secretary, Mary Lou Valley-Note, he awaited the arrival of his guests with an air of confidence and assurance. Among the attendees was Walter Hadgeduck, one of many drawn to the promise of wealth and prosperity that Blay-Miezah's scheme purported to offer. As the scene unfolded in Guernsey, tensions simmered beneath the surface, fueled by simmering disputes and unspoken grievances. Among the attendees was a businessman from New Jersey, embroiled in a dispute with Peter Rigby, Blay-Miezah's associate responsible for financial matters. Their animosity lingered in the air, casting a shadow over the proceedings. Meanwhile, EDM Stephen, the Ghanaian police officer tasked with overseeing Blay-Miezah's international travels, sat quietly, nursing his milky tea. Across the room, athlete Kim Chung-han provided translation services for the South Korean investors, bridging the linguistic divide with practiced ease. Amidst the diverse array of attendees, a palpable sense of anticipation hung heavy in the air. For the investors gathered in the opulent surroundings of Blay-Miezah's suite, the promise of imminent news loomed large, dominating their thoughts and conversations. In a smaller sitting room nearby, Blay-Miezah himself prepared to greet his guests, clad in a simple red patterned shirt and light slacks, a stark contrast to the dark wool suits worn by his visitors. His penchant for sophistication was evident in every gesture, a deliberate effort to exude an air of authority and refinement. Against the backdrop of a wet and cold Guernsey, the atmosphere inside the suite mirrored the weather outside, damp and somber. Yet, amidst the gloom, Blay-Miezah sought to foster a sense of camaraderie, initiating the Ghanaian national handshake, a symbol of respect and solidarity in Ghanaian culture. As the investors settled into their suites, their minds abuzz with anticipation and speculation, they eagerly awaited any developments regarding the long-awaited payout. Blay-Miezah's idiosyncrasies extended beyond his penchant for elaborate schemes and grandiose promises. Despite his frequent stays in hotels, he harbored a disdain for their cuisine, with the exception of cakes. To satisfy his discerning palate, he traveled with his personal chef, who meticulously prepared meals using ingredients imported from Ghana. On this occasion, the chef arrived armed with garden eggs and a cranny ready to cater exclusively to Blay-Miezah's culinary preferences. However, Blay-Miezah's extravagant tastes extended beyond the realm of food. He often commandeered hotel kitchens, where his chef would whip up elaborate meals, much to the chagrin of the staff. Despite their concerns about the exorbitant costs incurred, no one dared to question Blay-Miezah's extravagance, a testament to his power and influence. Yet even as Blay-Miezah indulged in lavish meals and extravagant accommodations, the promised payout for the investors remained elusive. Once again, he conveyed that the funds were inaccessible, plunging the group into yet another bout of disappointment and frustration. It seemed as though each meeting with Blay-Miezah ended in yet another excuse, leaving the investors disillusioned and weary. Unbeknownst to the investors, Blay-Miezah had no intention of releasing their funds, an inconvenient truth that they struggled to accept. Despite their growing skepticism, they had become accustomed to the cycle of promises and disappointments, a vicious cycle that seemed impossible to break. The investors' blind faith in Blay-Miezah bordered on irrationality, as they continued to follow him despite mounting evidence of his deception. Their unquestioning loyalty seemed to override any semblance of rationality, as they blindly accepted his vague explanations and empty promises time and time again. As they journeyed back to London, the investors engaged in fervent speculation, desperately trying to make sense of the situation. Blay-Miezah's purported expertise in finance led them to believe that the problem must have been caused by obscure banking regulations or other technicalities beyond their comprehension. Desperate to assuage their fears, they clung to this explanation, using it as a flimsy pretext to justify their continued trust in Blay-Miezah. Yet beneath their facade of calm reassurance lay a simmering undercurrent of concern and anxiety. Deep down, they harbored doubts about Blay-Miezah's integrity and the true nature of their investments. Despite their misgivings, they hesitated to voice their concerns openly, choosing instead to confide in each other in hushed tones. Despite their reservations, the investors remained steadfast in their allegiance to Blay-Miezah, unwilling to entertain the possibility of betrayal. Even as Reed, the British investor, speculated about the funds being trapped in multiple banks for years, and Hadjuk recounted the dwindling number of institutions involved, they clung to the hope that Blay-Miezah would eventually deliver on his promises. As the investors grappled with the uncertainty surrounding their investments, Blay-Miezah offered a semblance of clarity by shedding light on the intricate web of banking transactions that purportedly held their funds captive. With a staggering sum of $27.8 billion at stake, the funds were distributed across 16 banks, each holding approximately $1.5 billion. However, in a puzzling turn of events, the money had been consolidated into just 5 banks, including the relatively obscure Butterworth. Haddock's initial confusion over Butterworth, mistaking it for an American syrup brand, was swiftly dispelled as he clarified that it was, in fact, the government's bank, Bank of N.T. Butterfield and Son in Bermuda. His speculation ventured into the realm of financial intrigue, suggesting that these banks had extended loans against the trust fund money and were now grappling with the arduous task of recovering it, resulting in prolonged delays for the investors. Despite the speculative nature of these explanations, they provided a semblance of solace to the investors, offering a narrative that neatly rationalized their predicament and absolved Blay-Miezah of any wrongdoing. With each passing day, their faith in Blay-Miezah remained unshaken, bolstered by the comforting thought that their investments were merely caught in the crosscurrents of complex banking regulations and financial transactions. However, a lingering sense of unease lingered beneath the surface, a nagging suspicion that all was not as it seemed. While a few investors may have sensed the faintest hint of deception, they chose to bury their doubts beneath a veneer of camaraderie and shared speculation, clinging to the fragile hope that their fortunes would soon be restored. As Reed's anxiety mounted, his Cockney accent grew more pronounced, a tangible reflection of his escalating distress. He fretted over the practical implications of the prolonged wait, expressing concern about meeting payroll obligations and the dwindling availability of credit card funds. His palpable agitation underscored the gravity of the situation, highlighting the very real consequences of Blay-Miezah's deception on the investor's financial well-being. In stark contrast, Haddock remained seemingly indifferent to Reed's concerns, displaying a nonchalant demeanor that belied the gravity of the situation. His stoic composure stood in stark contrast to Reed's mounting panic, hinting at a fundamental disconnect in their perceptions of the unfolding crisis. Meanwhile, Blay-Miezah's extravagant lifestyle continued to draw scrutiny from all corners, with investigators across 3 continents delving into his affairs alongside his American associate, Robert Ellis. Despite mounting evidence of wrongdoing, investors remained strangely open to cooperating with Blay-Miezah, their unwavering trust in him defying rational explanation. The paradoxical nature of the situation baffled onlookers, as complaints about undelivered funds coexisted with a seemingly insatiable appetite for investment opportunities. It was as if a spell had been cast over the investors, blinding them to the glaring inconsistencies and red flags that littered Blay-Miezah's trail of deception. For years, Blay-Miezah's elaborate scam preyed upon unsuspecting investors, promising to double their investments only to leave them empty-handed. Despite numerous complaints and mounting evidence of fraud, he continued to operate with impunity, exploiting the trust and naivety of his victims. However, the tide began to turn when Blay-Miezah attempted to defraud Gerard Bank, a former financial institution, by filling counterfeit checks for $50,000 each and forging signatures using blank traveler's checks provided by an assistant branch manager. When one of his associates attempted to cash these checks at a Deutsche Bank branch in Germany, both institutions quickly detected the deception. Faced with imminent exposure, Blay-Miezah fled Philadelphia, evading capture and leaving behind a trail of chaos and disillusionment. Undeterred by his narrow escape, he continued to orchestrate his scam from afar, maintaining his grip on unsuspecting investors while seeking refuge in Ghana and London. Meanwhile, the assistant branch manager found himself ensnared in the fallout of Blay-Miezah's scheme, facing arrest and bearing the consequences of his complicity alone. As state prosecutors closed in on Ellis, Blay-Miezah's American associate, in 1986, it became increasingly clear that the walls were closing in on the fraudulent operation. In January, Ellis found himself facing arrest, marking the beginning of a legal saga that would captivate Philadelphia's legal community. As he appeared in court that spring for trial before Judge Lynn Abraham, the scene was set for a showdown between justice and deception. Described as a formidable figure known for her no-nonsense demeanor, Judge Abraham wielded authority with an iron fist. With a penchant for carrying a gun and fueled by copious amounts of coffee, she was a staunch advocate for the death penalty, an intimidating presence in the courtroom. Little did anyone know that she would go on to make history as Philadelphia's first female attorney general in 1991. Prosecutors wasted no time in tallying the staggering scope of Ellis and Blay-Miezah's deceit. Their calculations revealed that approximately 300 individuals in the greater Philadelphia region had fallen victim to the scheme. However, this figure only scratched the surface, as many more victims likely remained silent, clinging to the belief that the con artist was a financial genius whose elusive fortune was simply inaccessible. Despite suffering losses exceeding $15 million collectively, many investors still harbored unwavering faith in Blay-Miezah's mythical prowess, clinging to the hope that their investments were merely entangled in a complex web of financial transactions beyond their comprehension. It was a testament to the power of deception and the allure of easy wealth. As Ellis and his attorney, Anthony DeFino, stood opposite prosecutors Joseph Casey and William Wolfe in Judge Abraham's courtroom on April 8, 1987, the air crackled with anticipation. Judge Abraham's astute analysis of Ellis's fabrications underscored her deep understanding of African history and her recognition of the parallels between Blay-Miezah's deception and Ghana's tumultuous past. Drawing on her academic background, she portrayed President Kwame Nkrumah as a figure of ambiguity, either a revered leader or a notorious criminal, depending on one's perspective. Despite the issuance of an arrest warrant for Blay-Miezah, he had already vanished into the shadows, leaving Ellis to face the consequences of their shared crimes alone. Ellis eventually confessed his guilt and received a prison sentence of 5 to 15 years. However, the saga did not end there. In 1992, the year Blay-Miezah supposedly met his demise in Accra under house arrest, Ellis found himself facing yet another legal ordeal, this time for tax evasion. The circumstances surrounding Blay-Miezah's reported death were shrouded in doubt, given his history of deception and penchant for fabricating ailments. Only after the government obtained fingerprints from his body, at the insistence of the FBI, was his death confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt. Despite the overwhelming evidence debunking the existence of the ill-gotten millions, fervent supporters of Blay-Miezah continue to harbor suspicions that the fortune remains hidden, waiting to be uncovered. The allure of Blay-Miezah's imaginary treasure, promising to lift Ghana out of its historical struggles, ensnared countless individuals in a web of deceit and false hope. With promises of boundless riches, he manipulated the dreams and aspirations of ordinary people, leaving them devastated when their hard-earned money vanished in the blink of an eye. Throughout his reign of deception, Blay-Miezah maintained a facade of affluence and influence, appearing before his victims as a beacon of hope and opportunity. However, behind the veneer of prosperity lay a trail of shattered lives and ruined dreams. Despite encountering brushes with the law and brief stints behind bars, Blay-Miezah remained undeterred in his pursuit of wealth and power. His ability to evade capture and perpetuate his schemes only fueled his insatiable greed, leading him to concoct even grander lies and schemes to deceive unsuspecting victims. However, like the protagonists of many cautionary tales of hubris and deceit, Blay-Miezah's luck eventually ran out. Investigators, fueled by a determination to bring him to justice, relentlessly pursued Blay-Miezah, eventually catching up to him as his greed reached its zenith. His downfall served as a sobering reminder of the consequences of unchecked ambition and moral bankruptcy, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. Blay-Miezah's scams left a trail of devastation in their wake, shattering the lives and dreams of those who fell victim to his deceit. The magnitude of the financial fraud he perpetrated serves as a stark reminder of the profound damage that can result from unchecked greed and dishonesty. Families were left financially ruined, individuals faced bankruptcy and despair, and communities were left grappling with the aftermath of shattered trust. However, amidst the chaos and wreckage he caused, Blay-Miezah's story serves as a cautionary tale, imparting valuable lessons about the dangers of blind ambition and the importance of exercising caution in matters of finance. His ability to manipulate and deceive underscores the need for vigilance and skepticism, urging individuals to question offers that seem too good to be true and to conduct due diligence before entrusting their hard-earned money to others. Moreover, Blay-Miezah's legacy reminds us of the importance of integrity and ethical conduct in all aspects of life, especially when it comes to financial matters. The allure of easy promises of wealth may tempt individuals to compromise their principles, but the consequences of such actions can be dire. By upholding honesty and integrity in our dealings, we can protect ourselves and others from falling prey to the schemes of unscrupulous individuals like Blay-Miezah. We've come to the end of this story. Thanks for staying till the end. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for the next.